Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Election Day. Thank you all for choosing to be here with us. We've got some NBA basketball to talk. Keith, a little bit of a busy night in the in the league last night. Only 30 teams playing. That's all.
Yeah, that's all. Only everyone. I will say, I want them to incorporate the 15-minute stagger on some like regular nights more often because it was really cool. There
Yeah.
were, fortunately for a 30 game night, it can go really poorly, right? If you have the wrong matchups and it's like 30 not interesting games, like it's like, well, this
Yeah.
stunk. But there were, I want to say at least half the games or maybe more were like close down the stretch. So it was fun to be able to check in to like each one for the last few minutes. Like I had a blast throughout the course of the night. And then I stayed up way too late because I got pulled into the Gonzaga Baylor game,
Oh,
which didn't
okay.
even tip till 11:30 Eastern. So, but it was such a massive blowout that I was like, I'm bowing out of this. So I was up a little later than planned, but not far later. But yeah, I do like the staggered starts. I think on like a regular night, maybe you can work it more 7:30, 8. I don't know, but I know they kind of do that already, but it would be nice to be able to see a little bit more of it.
Here, I'll tell you what I liked, and I wish we could just make this a thing permanently. The games actually started on time. So,
Yes.
so obviously you can do it. It is possible. Like if you
Yeah.
say it's a 7:30 tip, it doesn't need to actually start at 7:38 or whatever. Like the NFL games start on time. MLS games start on time when they say they're going to start, unless obviously there's some sort of, weather situation, whatever, like
Sure.
some type of outlier type situation. But in general, they start on time. Why do NBA games say we start at this time and then they don't? And then they start 7,
Yeah.
8 minutes later. Obviously, you can do it because they did it last night. Why do we not just do that? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, we all know why. It's because they want to get into more commercials
Yep.
when you tune in at 7 and the game actually tips off at 7:08, 7:09, whatever it is. But yeah, it's funny. Then randomly, there's always like the one game, it's usually a TNT game that like starts right at the listed time. And then the next
Exactly.
thing you know, you're like, all right, well, I've got 10 minutes. Pop in there, and it's like, oh, I missed most of the
Oh, they
first
already
quarter.
started it. Yep.
So and even like you and I who
Mhm.
do this every day for a living get caught with that once in a while. But yeah, it's a little frustrating. But last night was a lot of fun and cool. Had fun with it once. Not no more. Like it's too much.
It's
Like it
too
was
many
just
games at
way too
once.
much. Like I was drowning and stuff. Over on the basketball bulletin though, I had a little fun today. Completely free and unlocked for everybody if they want to check it out. I did 30 notes. I did one note from every team. Something that I saw in the game as I was zipping around League Pass throughout the course of the night. So there's something out there
Herculean.
for every team. It was a lot of fun. We got that up there today, and we're the regular content coming in the basketball bulletin. This week will be a little wonky because I'm doing some traveling at the end of the week, but normally we'll have a bunch of stuff out there.
Herculean effort, and I'll drop a link to that in the description down below here on the YouTube channel. All right, Keith, let's get into the news. I know people are going to be maybe a little bit distracted today by some,
Yeah,
I don't know, some other things are going on in the country. Nothing,
a little bit.
nothing too
Yeah.
major. But let's
Nothing is
go and
important.
get into some NBA news. The Knicks fill out the roster, so now we know what's going on with Matt Ryan. He's signing a non-guaranteed deal. Now, what does this do for the Knicks in terms of having enough players on their roster and kind of the future and potentially future signings as well?
Yeah, so for the Knicks, what ultimately happened was when they made the Mikal Bridges trade, that was an unbalanced trade, or it wasn't really unbalanced, I guess, kind of, but there was like sign and trade in there. But the Karl-Anthony Towns was an unbalanced trade. And the Knicks ended up with having a roster that only had 12 players on standard contracts. So you can only do that. You can only have 14, less than 14 players. That's the way I'm trying to get there for 14 days at a time or 28 total days in the
Yeah.
entire season. That's how the NBA kind of says, hey, you can't run with a super short roster. Like we have roster limits both ends. There's a maximum and there's a
Yep.
minimum. And here's how you get to it. So the Knicks today will sign Ariel Huck-Porty who is on a two-way contract. They're going to sign him to a standard deal. They're going to sign Matt Ryan to a one-year veteran minimum deal. Then they are going to sign Boo Buie, who is an undrafted player out of Northwestern. Pretty tough little guard. He's an interesting player. They're going to sign him to a two-way contract. He was set to be with the Westchester Knicks of the G League, so now he'll come in, replace Huck Porty. That now gets them to the roster minimums. They'll be at 14 on standard deals, and they'll be there. They also need a couple more bodies because they have a whole bunch of guys who are injured. They've got Mitchell Robinson is out. Campaign is out for them. Kevin McCullough is out. Somebody else that I'm slipping my mind right now, who is Precious Achiuwa is also out for the Knicks. So they're going to get in Matt Ryan there, and then they'll have Bowie as an extra two-way guy. So what this did was a couple kind of fun mechanics with this. Having Matt Ryan and Huck Porty coming in, Ryan on the veteran minimum and Huck Porty on the rookie minimum. That leaves them with about $596,000 under the second apron hard cap, at which they are hard capped from the trades this summer. I figured it out. I went and did the math. February 24th is when they can actually sign another player to a veteran minimum deal and fill out the roster to 15 guys. So
because of pro rates.
Yeah, because of pro rates down. Yeah, so they've got to get it down to where it's less than that, 596, and they have like 8,000 and change. Now they could do a 1-year veteran minimum guy or a rookie minimum, but here's the sticking point. We'll nerd out for a minute here. If you sign a player who's an undrafted guy or a player you didn't have draft rights for, that's a rookie minimum or a 1-year guy, they count at the tax and the aprons at the 2-year veteran minimum amount. What that does is that kind of closes the loophole of teams saying, well, let's just sign all these undrafted guys. And we'll just have a whole bunch of undrafted guys at just over $1 million a pop on the roster. And that's how we'll save a bunch of space. That's the way the NBA kind of closes that loophole and says, hey, we want these jobs to really go to veteran players. So if you're going to do this, you have to have had draft rights. So the Knicks, Ariel Huck Porty, who was on a two-way, was one of their draft rights guys. So he counts at his actual minimum. It'll be just over $1 million prorated. He's just cut off on the bottom of the screen there.
I'll scroll down
there.
A little bit here.
Well, so there it is. So what happens is with Huck Porty, just over $1 million, Matt Ryan, just under $2 million. That leaves the Knicks about 500 and, like you said, almost 600,000 under the second apron. They can fill that 15th spot much later in the year, which should just so happen be around the time Landry Shamet's probably going to be fully ready to go and healthy and ready to play for the remainder of the year for the Knicks. They could also make a trade where they send out more money than they take back or whatever to free up more flexibility. But that's where we're at today.
So the Knicks doing what they can to make sure they stay in NBA compliance, stay within the rules, and to being a bit creative here with the way they put this together. Although I got to say, Keith, I am incredibly disappointed in the Knicks because I think they missed an incredible opportunity, an amazing opportunity. Why would you not sign a dude named Boo Buie on Halloween?
I know.
What are we doing, Knicks? Come on, get with the program.
Yeah. Well, because that would have meant converting Huck Porty 2 days earlier, which would have meant, actually 5 days earlier, which would have meant a lot more money. So
here's the thing, though. Like there had to be an exception. There had to be you call up the league and you say, look, this is going to go through in a few days because we don't want to spend more money or whatever, but we're announcing this today and you guys are going to be okay with it because come on, really, NBA? Like you have to allow this is too cool. You have to allow it to happen. And I'm sure Adam Silver would have said, okay, even we can't deny this. We need a dude named Boo needs to be signed on Halloween. That's just we can't stand in the way of that. They would have been fine. People would have celebrated, dancing, partying in the streets. But no, the Knicks had to wait to sign Boo Buie.
So I'm going to hit you with two more things on this. One, they say mo money, no problems. I think with the Knicks, it's no money, mo problems. They just don't have the money. Boo Buie, you'll like this as a history guy. His real first name? is Daniel. So Daniel Bowie.
Oh,
Yeah. So there you
really?
go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Inventor of
So
the Bowie knife.
yeah. Yep.
I like it.
So there it
I
is,
like
spelled differently, but whatever. Who cares? That's not, let's not ruin a good time with some factual information here.
it.
Why would we
Yeah,
bother with
come
that?
on.
Yeah.
We
Let's
can't.
have some fun.
Yeah. Oh no, wait, it was Jim Bowie that created the Bowie knife.
Was it? Who's Daniel
Wait,
Bowie then? That's
Dan,
somebody.
what we did was we crossed Daniel Boone and Jim Bowie.
Oh, that's what we
That's
did.
what we did
All
there.
right. Well, scratch all that. Forget it. It's no longer
Forget all of it.
nearly as
Forget
good
all
of
it. And
a,
this is how you know I didn't edit this show because if this is still in, that's
we're
how you
gonna
know I
leave
didn't
that
go
in
back
there.
and do my editing job. I was
This
like,
is why we
I was like
endeavor
Daniel Bowie. That
occasionally.
doesn't sound right.
Yeah,
Wait,
it
and
didn't
it took a
sound
second to
exactly right to
click.
me.
I had to dust off the history knowledge there. But yeah, Jim Bowie,
Whatever. I mean, Daniel Crockett and the
Davy
fighting in
Crockett.
the. I know. I was trying to just keep the stupidity going. In the basement of the Alamo
Oh God.
with Pee Wee Herman's bike.
Oh no. Oh,
March.
we're having a great show. It's a good
Yeah.
thing everybody's going to be distracted by the
Yeah, no one's
election
gonna watch
today.
this anyway.
All right, let's get
Did you
to
see
our
the
guy.
people commenting on me singing the Facts of Life theme song?
Yeah,
Yesterday? There's a
there
couple
was
people.
Keith, when you did that yesterday, I thought nobody's going to know this. People are going to go, you guys are old and nobody's going to know what we're talking about. And then there were actually people commenting on it, like I wasn't expecting to hear that today. That was pretty cool.
I had a full scale 80s throwback because I referenced in my article on Spot Track today, which is if you want to read more about the Knicks situation or why DeJounte Murray's contract is interesting with his bonuses and luxury tax, or why Cameron Johnson is a little hard to acquire for teams working with hard caps or around the aprons. Lakers maybe there because he's one of the most common people put into trades on the Spot Track trade machine is Cam Johnson to Lakers trades. I wrote about that, but I put in that article, I wrote a little bit about, I referenced Agatha Christie in the movie version of Clue. So if anybody is not, if anybody's really old like us and they're interested in the movie Clue, it gets a little bit of play throughout the article. So one of my all-time favorites. Let's say
Wow.
Yeah, favorite movie there. So
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, you really got the
Jump in the
80s got the 80s references in there and all that. I like it.
All right, let's move it on.
Let's move along. I had some 80s references too that popped up today, but I will save those because I know we do need to get moving here. At some point we'll do an 80s show or something like that. And I'll
neon breaker.
That's right. I'll break the mullet back out. It'll be great. It'll be great. I
wish I could.
All right.
Mullet. I probably could actually. That's about the way it goes. It goes long in the back. There's not much
business in the front, party in the back. There it is.
Well, this show is completely off the rails. Enjoy the election, everyone.
Enjoy the election. Have a great day, everybody. All right. The Nuggets are interested in Lonnie Walker. I think there's a number of teams that are going to kind of keep tabs on Lonnie Walker. I think that in general, people would say he's an NBA player. He probably should be in the NBA. Will not be for a period of time, but once injuries start to set in, maybe a trade comes in and a roster spot opens up. Keith, let me put it this way. I would be surprised if we don't see Lonnie Walker on an NBA team before the end of the season.
Yeah, I think so. I think we talked about this already, but the unique structure that they did with the $450,000 buyout by the middle of February, what that does is that allows Lonnie Walker and his agency, his team to kind of look at it and say, all right, who made moves at the trade deadline? Needs a bench scoring guard. All right, great. If the right option is there, we'll jump back over to the NBA. We'll leave Zalgiris and Lithuania and go. And if not, we'll stay here for the rest of the year, play out the rest of the season in Lithuania, and then we'll look at things next summer and what it might look like in the NBA. So my guess is, I think you're right. I think somebody will bring him back in post-trade deadline. Somebody will open up a roster spot or maybe a team that's still sitting on a roster spot. Mark Stein was the one who noted the Nuggets' interest. He also noted Boston is still keeping tabs on him. Lonnie Walker was all set to go to the G League, but then this option came up to play in the Euro League. It's a higher level league for him. So this is an opportunity for him to really maybe show out for NBA teams and make a kind of statement of, hey, I could probably go to the G League and score 20 a game. And people might be like, okay, cool, but it's the G League. But if he goes over, really produces in a high level in the Euro League, teams might feel a little bit differently about that. So, all the best to him. I hope he makes it back to the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, think he is an NBA level player. And like I said, I think he probably will. But right now, you got a lot of people that are a lot of teams keeping an eye on him. The Nuggets being one of them. The Nuggets can certainly use some shooting.
Squad.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. They could use a little bit of bench scoring punch. I think.
Sure.
We'll see where it goes. They play like because they're not taking care of business against teams. So like every game is close. So their games are all been like really fun.
Yeah, they almost lost to the Raptors last night
twice in the last week because they almost lost in Toronto too. So it's but it's hey, if we're playing close games, give me Jokic at the end. I feel pretty good about my chances.
Toronto has been executing a pretty epic tank. They put themselves right in games and then lost them right at the end, which is what you want to do if you're tanking, right? Yeah. Look pretty good, and fall to pieces right at the end. Okay, cool. We'll take the loss, and a bunch of our guys look good in the process. So that's kind of what you want to do. And of course, right now we'll talk about it. Actually, let's just talk about it right now. Scotty Barnes. Dealing with a fractured orbital. That's part of why the Raptors are struggling a bit. It's no Scotty Barnes. He's out. Emmanuel quickly, right? He's not even the only one injured. So Scotty Barnes will not have to have surgery on his fractured orbital, and so we're going to get another update in a few weeks. But that's good news. I think the Raptors are going to be careful with him. I don't know if the plan is for him to wear a mask or whatnot when he returns, but for the time being, it'll be a few more weeks. But fortunately, they did not have to go the surgical route, which would have put him out even longer.
100%. Yeah, that's great news for this Toronto team. And this is, again, I'll say this a lot throughout the course of the year, especially with teams like Toronto. You're probably going to have a rough season. What you don't want to have is a lost season where you don't get to evaluate guys. And what you're really hoping to see is, all right, what do we look like with Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, and then other guys around that trio is kind of our new building blocks, if you will. What does it look like with other guys orbiting that group? So that way we can figure out, all right, do we need a stretch center or does Jakob Poeltl work? Is Quickly fine as our primary on-ball playmaker, or do we need somebody else? Can Scotty Barnes handle the point forward type role? Those are all the things figuring out. We have some answers to that. Are obviously we know Barnes can handle that. At least a pretty good clip there. RJ Barrett's playing really well. My note on them in the 30 notes was they're playing really hard for Darko Rajakovic, and he runs some really great stuff. And that to me is that's important, right? Because this is a team that they've been really successful for the better part of a decade in Toronto up until last year. And then kind of all started to fall apart on them. So now what we're seeing is this Raptors team under a new head coach in Rajakovic. You're really seeing, all right, they're starting to get a little bit of an identity of you're going to have to work to beat us. Like we're going to come in, we're going to execute pretty well. Right now, I think it's just a lack of talent versus a lack of scheme or anything. Yeah. So we'll see where it goes with them. But I'm excited to monitor them more so when they get healthy.
Yeah, again, they can. I think they can do something. Jakob Poeltl's a guy to keep an eye on the trade market. We'll see if something happens there. But this is a Raptors team that at the very least has been competitive in these games. All right, let's get to this. Anthony Davis, Keith, some concerning stuff last night. Some stuff where it came out last night and it was late last night, but it was enough where everybody went, "Wait, what?" Shocking, to say the least, what came out about Anthony Davis and his injury situation. He said, first and foremost, he said after the game against the Pistons last night, he said he landed on the spot that has been, quote, killing him. And you're like, "Ooh, okay, you've got something going on with your foot or ankle that's been killing you." And then Dave McMenamin for ESPN mentioned that sources had told ESPN that this has been bothering him since the beginning, since the end of last season, and that it was all the way through the Olympics. And Keith, I said it over on Lakers Nation when I broke down the news. I said, we don't know what the story is here. We don't know exactly what's happening, but it does beg the question there. And again, there may be a reasonable answer here, but it begs the question, why did you play in the Olympics then? If you have something
Hmm.
that was bothering you. Now, again, I mentioned it over on Lakers Nation. I said, look, there are injuries where, and we have no idea what this is. We don't know what the injury is here, but there are injuries where doctors will tell you you can't do any more damage to it. It might be uncomfortable, but you can't hurt it any worse by playing on it. Maybe whatever it is that situation. And so AD just said, you know what? It might bother me a little bit, but if I can't make it worse, I'm going to go ahead and play in the Olympics. We don't know, but I know right now that's the question that a lot of people want to know. Why did you go play for Team USA if you were dealing with an injury from the end of last season with the Lakers? I'm sure we'll get more details at some point, but right now that's the big question mark that's out there.
Yeah, and it's also with this too, little nebulous in exactly what it is,
Yeah,
because the area he grabbed at was like I don't want to make anybody think it's an Achilles thing because we don't know that, but it was
right.
like the more like the lower part of his heel was kind of where he was grabbing at when he went down. It was later in the game.
Yeah,
But you could see when he said every time I land on it wrong or right or however you want to think about that, like I can feel it. Like it's where it's killing me. You could see like he landed and then he just went down. And but then a couple minutes later he caught an alley oop and finished it and finished out the
yeah,
game. The couple challenging things too is with the Lakers big man rotation where it is currently, this isn't even something where very easily they can be like, all right, we're going to spot him a rest day. Right now,
right.
you may need to because you may just need to say, hey, if we lose the game, it is what it is, but we have to, it's better to keep AD healthy. And I don't know what the
Sure.
exact schedule. I know they finish this road trip in Memphis
Yeah.
tomorrow, and
Hmm.
then they're headed back home to LA. So maybe there's a spot coming up where you could find a day for him. But I just looked it up. He's playing the second most minutes per game of his entire career right now. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. They they are a okay defense when he's on the floor, but when he's off, like it's a complete disaster because
Oh, yeah.
everything he has to do so much for the Lakers right now, offensively and defensively. And I kind of mentioned this with Tyrese Maxey the other day. A high minutes load is not always a death knell in and of itself for a player, but it's a high minutes load with a massive usage. And has a massive usage on both ends of the floor because they need him to do so much. And that part worries me because this is not 25 to 28-year-old Anthony Davis anymore. He's in his 30s and with his injury history. That's part that concerns me. And I wonder, like, something like this doesn't sound like it's going to get better just playing through it and managing it that way. So how are you going to get him better, and where are the Lakers going to be by the time he is better?
Well, right now the Lakers have, as you mentioned, they are very reliant upon him defensively. They are the 25th team in the NBA in defensive rating, and you can see. I think the last year they were a really bad transition defense team. That continues to be the case, and the word is out. You can see it now. Teams are starting to really put pressure on the Lakers guards. There's a deficit when it comes to athleticism in the Lakers backcourt with D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves, and then Gabe Vincent. Keith, it's remarkable. I don't know if I've ever seen a player aside from who is it, Tony Snell, that was known for going out there and playing like 20 minutes and somehow producing zero stats.
Yeah, yeah.
Gabe Vincent did the 18 minutes, one steal. That was it. No other, and a turnover. So you're not getting much out of Gabe Vincent. So you've got this backcourt that has a deficit when it comes to athleticism. So what teams are doing is they're pressuring them like crazy and then forcing them to get in their offense a little bit later, knowing that if you can at the very least get the Lakers to take a tough shot, if you can get a stop, you're scoring on the other end, because if you can get a miss, you're off and running, and the Lakers are really bad at getting back defensively. So, and that's just crushing their defensive rating. And again, without AD, I mean, we've seen it for years. If AD is behind a play, if he attacks for an offensive rebound and that his momentum carries him off the court, the opposing team goes right to the rim as soon as they see
Yep.
AD's not out there. So if he's out for any length of time, it's Jackson Hayes starting at center, and there isn't even anybody behind Jackson Hayes. Like, your next option would be LeBron or Rui at the
Probably.
five,
Yeah.
because the Lakers didn't address the position during the offseason. So it's going to get really dicey if Anthony Davis has to miss time.
Yeah, I will also say one of the things that stood out to me because of what more because they've been on the East Coast, so I've been
Uh-huh.
really kind of dialed into some of their early games in the last week. Um, the lack of depth is starting to really stand out for them. Not in front court, we've been saying that for a while. But like you said, yeah, Gabe Vincent just plays these games where it's like he's just kind of out there.
Yeah.
Like it's not even necessarily like all bad. It's just like,
No.
but he's just out there, right? He's just kind of on the floor. Like it's weird. Dalton Connect, he's a rookie, right? So it's gonna
Mhm.
come and go with him. There's nights when he's been awesome. There's been some nights where it's been like, yeah, he's a rookie. And then
Sure.
after that, it's like a whole bunch of like, well, figured out Jackson Hayes has been fine, but we don't know. We could be on a ticking clock with Jackson Hayes even being available here soon,
Mhm.
depending what happens with the investigation with the NBA. So now you're in a spot where one of the things I really look at with this team is I know everybody's like clamoring for, put D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura together and go get this guy, or D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves, or Hachimura and Reeves, or all three of them, and go trade for player X. Your challenge becomes any unbalanced trade eats away at your depth, and
Which you already
that
don't have.
an issue, which you already don't have. And I'm by no means saying like don't go out and make a trade because sometimes that's fine, right? Sometimes you had
Yeah.
one guy who's really, really good, and it's like, well, now the position's covered. We don't have to worry about a backup. We'll find somebody for 10 minutes. But it's tough. There are between injuries and guys who haven't really developed into rotation guys, there's just a lot of empty roster spots on the Lakers right now that makes it tough when you're sitting here kind of looking for, all right, we need somebody else who can give us regular, consistent production besides two guys who should be at the point in their career where they should be able to kind of just make their way through the regular season,
Yeah.
not have to carry us night in, night out.
With Jared Vanderbilt and Christian Wood out, that hurts because they're two actual NBA players. Like not even
Exactly.
just position, and positionally it does hurt, but beyond the position, just they're NBA players. Right
Yep.
now, you've got too many roster spots that are eaten up, and we talked about it in the summer. Too many roster spots eaten up by guys that aren't NBA players, and so you can't really put them on the floor like they had to dust off Cam Reddish last night. He actually did some okay things, but yeah, it's a much thinner roster than last year. And so if there's any kind of injuries or anything like that, you run out of real NBA players very, very quickly. And I think they're already at that point. So if AD misses time, but yikes, I mean, you're going down to like an 8-man rotation, or you're putting guys on the floor that, I mean, Keith, at this point, I think a lot of Lakers fans would feel better about putting Quincy Oliveri on the court than saying, hey, Jalen Hood-Schifino, here's your shot, or Max Lewis, or whoever. And those guys, that's a guy on a two-way, Quincy Oliveri. So it's very, very thin, and that's going to be a problem until we can get some kind of a positive update on Jared Vanderbilt or on Christian Wood. They need those guys back just because they need NBA players on their roster, which sounds like a terrible way to say it, but that's really what they need.
Yeah, you cannot survive with empty roster spots. And
Yeah.
Empty roster spots is one thing. Like we talked a lot about the Knicks at the start of the show, right? Like they had empty roster spots. You really can't survive with not empty roster spots that are non-productive. And I'm gonna just harp on this one last time with this in relation to this. This is where giving out all those player options
It killed
doesn't
them.
look awful in the moment where it's like, okay, cool. We got Christian Wood, right? Everybody was fired up when the Lakers signed
Sure.
Christian Wood a couple of years ago because it was like, awesome, you got him on a minimum. And all right, the player option, if that's the price of business, it is what it is. But this is where the challenge comes in. If you're not getting anything out of him, or you don't feel good about it, or a guy like Cam Reddish, who isn't really a rotation guy, you can't then just easily replace them, right? That's where it starts to come back to bite you. Is if Cam Reddish did just expired and come off the books, I have no doubt in my mind the Lakers go out and get some veteran minimum signing.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
probably an upgrade on Cam Reddish, but they
Yep.
couldn't because they had him on the books and his contract was fully guaranteed. That's where they got to push really hard. And now moving forward, we're going to be dancing around the aprons and everything else, and it looks like they will be. We can't have those empty roster spots that are actually, though, taken up by a salary that's not really that good. And I expect what we're going to see out of the Lakers probably before we see any big trade is some form of Cam Reddish and a pick were sent to the Pistons into their cap space just to open up a roster spot, clear a little bit more wiggle room and that kind of thing. I think that's probably very likely to happen eventually with them because they're, like you said, they're going to have to get bodies in there that can play 10 minutes a night or something like that.
Well, if they're going to do that though, they needed to do that in July when there were still players on the roster that were there were still players in free agency that were available that were good. I mean, Taurean Prince was begging to come back, and they didn't have a spot to give him. Like guys like that would certainly be helpful. The Christian Wood thing, at least there were, legit reports of multiple teams after him.
Oh,
like there was competition. So if it came down to it, you could see where, and I don't know if this was the case or not, but you could see a realistic scenario where it was, if we don't give him the player option, we don't get him. So let's at least try to get another big. But Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes, like why those guys got player options was very confusing. The Lakers like to give them out. Jared Vanderbilt has a player option at the end of his contract. Max Christie has a player option at the end of his contract. Why? Who the hell knows? But they do.
Yeah, and those are potentially maybe. I mean, I laugh every time I say this because I'm getting ready to say, well, those are going to come up in a post LeBron world where you'll be, retooling the roster, and who the hell knows if that will actually be a post LeBron world, because I don't know when that will ever happen. But yeah, that's where you just don't want that money on the books, right? Like that's what it comes down to, unless they really pop. But here's the thing: if they really pop, the money's not going to be on the books because they're going to opt out and look for more. So that's where, with a player option, you have to be I'd be super reluctant on giving a player option to anybody but like this guy's a superstar or this guy he's been a part of the organization for, we're going into a third contract. We know who he is. Like he's a big part of everything we do. Then I'd be okay with it. But, these guys that are just kind of, we're betting on some upside here, or, we're filling out the roster, like stop with the 2-year deals with player options. It's just not worth it.
It just kills you because you limit your own upside, where if the guy actually does hit, and also you diminish their trade value because teams are going to see that player option at the end and they're like, we don't want to deal with that. That's not a good situation.
What else happens? Cam Reddish has a de facto no trade clause because of the player option. So does Christian Wood, right? Those guys can say, no, I don't want to go, right? If
in the first year of the deal.
Check. So now we're like, where are we going with this, right? My suggestion of salary dump Cam Reddish with a pick. If Cam Reddish is like, nah, I'm good. He can say no. I got to double check to make sure that's accurate.
Wait, I was going to say like that makes sense the first year because the option year is still there, but would he still have it for the second year of the deal?
No, I think you are right on that. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's check it live.
Let's do it. Why not?
Nothing else going on.
Why not? There's nothing important.
I think I'm off on that actually. What I'm thinking about was when they had re-signed like Rondo and Avery Bradley to the second year with the player option. That's where they become a problem. So we're clean on those guys, but still that's where. So now, all right. So let's flip it though. Let's say they do want to re-sign like Cam Reddish or somebody like that. That's where it does become a problem, right? Because he'd be on a 1-year deal and would lose his bird rights if they gave him a 1 year with a player option after this. Or Jackson Hayes, like Reddish isn't good. Jackson Hayes has been a productive player. If he does another 1+1 with a player option next season, he would have the no trade clause
because that'll be his third year.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and he'd be on technically a 1-year deal because he'd be doing the option. So, man, we bungled through moments of this show. This was
we found our way.
No one's gonna watch. So good day to get all our mistakes out.
Yeah, we found our way down the witch's road.
There it is, down. Man, I just think I just got it out of my head.
That's why I did that.
Great show, man. I loved it.
Oh, did you like the ending? I don't know. Can we spoil the ending?
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, most people are like out on Marvel, I think, right now. It feels like anyway, even though they shouldn't be on this one. Yeah, I liked it. I liked, I think I said this to you on Twitter. I liked that it it can definitely tie into future stuff, but it
Uh-huh.
wasn't like you have to know this to be able to understand, Thunderbolts or something like that,
Sure.
right? Like it was like, okay, like it could go nowhere or it could be huge the rest of the way. And I thought that was pretty cool.
I just think bringing in death is like was so big, potentially, for down the road, depending on, do you when you get into like Secret Wars and stuff, does that incorporate
Mhm.
Thanos? And then does death come back into play? Or Deadpool, does death come into play there? So I think there's some interesting things with that. You can get into like the Young Avengers stuff, and now you've got more of a comic accurate
Mhm.
Agatha and all that. So that's kind of exciting. And just in general, I thought the end of the show, well, it wasn't like mind blowing, oh my gosh, this type of thing has never, ever, ever been done before type thing, but it was an enjoyable twist where I was like,
Mhm.
oh man, I can't. And then it got me thinking back, like, oh, that's why she acted that way when this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened. It got me going back and rethinking about the entire show. I always love moments like that where it just changes your whole perception on what was really happening and what you're really watching. I thought it was very cool and very well done.
Yeah, I thought the way they handled the flashback stuff was really cool too.
Yeah.
Like where like they didn't give it to you too early, right? You got Agatha's like true backstory, not her WandaVision backstory, but like her like true backstory from like basically you got that in the last episode. Like, and
Yeah.
that was really cool that it was like, okay, now we understand why she is the way she is. Like, why does she actually hate witches? Right?
Right.
Because it's like she, knows like, it just all went wrong for her. And then the whole thing with like, oh, okay, I get like he like just inhabited a body he found and all that stuff
Right.
with Billy. Like I thought that was pretty neat too. So yeah, I had it was a lot of fun too. Like it was
Yeah.
just a fun show. Some really funny. I mean, Catherine Hahn's a riot. Like
Yeah.
she is just hilarious. So a lot of fun moments in there. Like just all around. I highly encourage people to go check it out because it was really really good show. And I think they left enough for they can do stuff if they want to, right? But
Yeah.
it
For
doesn't
sure.
doesn't feel like it was like, oh my gosh, if you didn't pay attention to this. It also didn't leave like a moment where Secret Invasion,
Hmm.
they left the girl like walking around the oh my god, what's her real name? I want to call her Daenerys Targaryen,
Yeah.
but
Right. Right.
Amelia Clark.
There you go.
They left so she's just out there with like every superhero's powers, and we're just supposed to be like, okay, I guess.
Right. Yep.
Like we're just like okay, sure. Like
Like
it's like
nothing ever
really
ever
like
happened with that,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
like the eternal hand is grown up out of the ocean, like and nobody's
Yeah.
ever
And nobody's noticed it,
whatever
which
with
I
that.
think
Everybody
I think is going to come up in the new Captain America movie. But
supposed to, yeah, I think it's either that one or it's like I think they said it's either going to be in there or in Thunderbolts. My guess is it's going to be
oh, that
somebody's going
makes
to be
sense.
like mining it for some kind of power or
Right.
something. Who knows?
Something like
But
that.
yeah, I think Deadpool TV show, like I think Marvel's starting to find their way again. Like I've
Yeah.
enjoyed all of it all along, but not to make the pun with Agatha, but I've enjoyed the whole run of Marvel stuff. But I get why people are like, and I had friends who were just like, dude, I can't watch 17 TV shows a year and 8 movies. Like I can't keep up with all of it. So I think
This
slowing down has also
yeah.
helped.
This felt like it's been a little while since we've had one, and I love
Mhm.
the way they paced it to lead up to Halloween. Like that added to all of it too. I thought it was just,
Yep.
I thought it was great. It reminded me a little bit of when the Hawkeye TV series came out, and that was
Yeah.
leading up to Christmas, and it was set during Christmas.
Mhm.
That was pretty cool too. So I like this one, and I enjoyed it. It's got me, I'm excited about what comes next when we get into
Yeah.
Thunderbolts, we get into all this other stuff. I
Yep.
was surprised by how much negativity was out there about Agatha.
Yeah.
Like I didn't
I think
I
it's
think people just wanted
if
to be negative or something, but like once you actually watch it, I'm like, this is good. Like I didn't understand what people were complaining about. I thought it was really good.
yeah, Marvel's got like too big to be popular with everybody. I feel like
Ah,
now, right? It's like
they've
that's where
got
I just feel
haters.
like it is. Yeah, like it's just gonna always have because if they do fan service, people are like, it's too much fan service. If they don't do any, it's like you didn't give me anything to attach to. So it's
Right.
like you like, all right, what you tell me what the right amount is. And I'm super excited for Daredevil. I think it looks
Yeah.
pretty cool. That should be fun. The snippets we've now seen of Ironheart, that also looks pretty good. So yeah, I I I'm very optimistic of where it's all going to go. I mean, I'm going to go watch it and enjoy it all anyway,
Sure.
because there's been, I don't think there's been anything I've came away with except Secret Invasion. I was just like, man, did we need this? Like
Yeah.
that one. But I also had super high hopes for it, and it just wasn't very good. So
Yeah.
but most everything else I felt pretty good about. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And we'll see if the future projects tie up those loose ends that we
Yeah.
were talking about that are still floating around out there.
Really well
All
done
right.
by us on our 15-minute election.
I know. We always do this.
We crushed it.
We're like, it's the NFL trade deadline today. It's the election. Let's just do like a 15-minute show, and we'll hit on some key topics. And here we are, 40 minutes in. This is what happens when we sit down to do it. It's how it goes.
All right. Well, just so everybody's wondering, the rest of this week's going to be a little weird. We'll get a show in tomorrow. Thursday, I'm traveling. I'm going to Arizona State. They're doing their annual mock trade deadline competition where a whole bunch of students are going to come in and run NBA teams through trade deadline day. And it was a blast last year. I'm super excited to be invited back as a judge again this year. So I'm going to have a lot of fun with that later on this week. So it's going to be a little bit of a weird week. Front office Friday timing might be a little odd and might be able to yell as loud because I'm going to be in a hotel room, but we're going to make it work. We'll figure out how to get you guys, there and get you some content throughout the rest of the week and to the weekend. But just hang with us as we muddle through the rest of this week because of my travel plans.
That's right. All right. So that's coming up this week, but thank you again, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.